Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
One of my favorite sports flicks of all time is the movie Hoosiers, starring actor Gene Hackman as Coach Norman Dale. Hoosiers is based on the true story of the 1954 Indiana high school champ Milan High School, who overcame all odds to beat a superior opponent to win the state tournament. One scene that stands out in the movie is when the boys of Milan are down at halftime and Coach Dale inspires them to get their heads up and reminds them how they can win the second half. A scene that oftentimes resembles meetings I have with savers who are at halftime in their own lives and looking for a game plan that will carry them to victory into the second half of retirement. Which is why today I'm going to explain exactly what halftime is and how you can better prepare yourself for the second half of retirement right now. So let's sound that buzzer and get started. Well, welcome folks to the Worry-Free Retirement, and yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, retirement planning specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And before we show you how to enjoy more of your money during halftime by creating a written financial game plan, let me introduce to you two key players in the Worry-Free production team who make this show happen each and every week. America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orender, and Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson. Okay, imagine you're in that smelly old locker room sitting back in 1954, discouraged that the opponent you're facing is too big and too much to handle, when all of a sudden, Coach Dale begins reminding you that there's still plenty of time on the clock and that by changing the game plan up, you can still come out and win the game in the second half. Would you continue to hang your head down or, like these young lads, be inspired to take the lead of your coach and come out swinging with confidence, more confidence than ever before? Well, hopefully, if you're like the thousands of savers I've met over my lifetime, you will be encouraged to follow our lead at Tony Walker Financial and take us up on putting in motion a written game plan that will not only allow you to better use and enjoy your money before it's too late, but also show you how to beat the opponent by keeping more of your money in your pocket. Whether it's saving on fees paid to your current advisor, reducing taxes that will one day go to Uncle Sam, or stop taking so much risk with Wall Street today, I'm going to show you how to regroup at halftime so that you can enter the second half of life more confidently and win this game called retirement. So stay tuned. I'm Tony Walker. I'll be right back. Who can you trust? It's one of the most important decisions you'll have to make. Question is, are you ready? Well, we're here to help at Tony Walker Financial. You know, we care more about you than we do your money, and we have over 2,000 happy clients and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau to prove it. Rolling over a 401k, confused about Social Security, maybe you're afraid of running out of money. Learn how to use and enjoy and protect your hard-earned money. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. Our Tony in the Trenches comes to us from Janet over in southern Indiana, who asks the following. Tony, my employer is experiencing some downsizing and having our 401k rep come to talk to us about our options with our 401k plans, but I don't want to keep my 401k plan with the current advisor. Assuming I do get laid off, can I roll over my 401k to you? Well, Janet, obviously we would be happy to talk to you about your 401k. We do this all the time where people have been downsized, maybe they're terminating employment for whatever reason, and they need help rolling that 401k over to a local trained fiduciary such as Tony Walker Financial. And here's the first thing you'll need to do. You want to go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, and you can download this or we can mail this to you. We call this the Worry-Free Retirement Starter Kit. And what happens is you'll bring that starter kit in with there's a documents checklist attached to it. Bring all those documents to us, and at our first meeting, which takes only about 30 minutes, we'll do a fact finder to see exactly what's going on and how we can help. And of course, if we can, if it warrants, we'll be happy to roll that 401k over. We'll talk to you more about that in just a second. But absolutely, if you're going through a downsizing or anything at work that you experience right now, need help with your 401k, please let us know by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Okay, when we think of Wall Street and saving for the future, this is what we think of. This guy. Wall Street constantly telling us to save and save and save. All the way through, it seems like forever, and we can't understand why they keep telling us to save. Well, the reason they want you to save is because of trillions. That's literally trillions of dollars that's locked away, tucked away in these 401k plans that Wall Street makes fees on. There's a reason, folks, they don't want you spending this money. Wall Street always likes to say this, coming this way to you. Don't spend it during halftime, because at some point in the second half, you might just need it. And quite frankly, this is the opposite message of Tony Walker Financial, which says the following, and this is based on watching the lives of hundreds and hundreds of retirees play out. It's this: when you're at halftime, the second half of life comes your way pretty quickly. We're going to see this in a minute. You better have a game plan in place to enjoy the money now rather than later. Because when you leave halftime and get into what we call the second half of life, when you leave that locker room, the opponents out there are going to be waiting. Those opponents might be taxes, fees, poor health, taking too much risk with your money, premature death or loss of a loved one, and losing the desire even to travel and do things that you might have enjoyed during halftime. The list of time-changing events as you get older goes on, which is why I created something to help us put a little urgency into our plans so that we can enjoy more of our halftime. And I call this Tony's Timeline to a Worry-Free Retirement. You know, it's interesting, as I've worked with all these people over the years, we see so many people who wait too long to spend their money. So let's kind of think through maybe some key things in your life from a timeline standpoint. Well, obviously, your birthday. You ever thought about that? The day you were born is when this whole thing begins, and more than likely, if you're like most people, you celebrate it once a year. So that's a key point of the timeline. The next timeline that might have been very important to you might have been your graduation from high school. Another timeline mark might have been, let's say, a marriage or your first home or something like that. But as we move through life and we work and we save, we get near retirement, and this is a key age. We'll see this in our next segment, a very key age, the age of 59 and a half. Now, why in the world would Tony be putting up 59 and a half? That's a strange age to quote in this timeline to a worry-free retirement. Well, for most of you, based on the tax laws, based on flexibility, age 59 and a half is the first time in your lives that you actually will have access without penalty to these darn 401k plans that are laden with taxes and no game plan in sight to use and enjoy your money. So at 59 and a half, this is when we really encourage people to come talk to us if you're 59 and a half or older, because as we're getting ready to see, this is when halftime starts. This is when you're going to go into the financial locker room. We're going to adjust things and get ready for a game plan that first is going to allow you to use and enjoy your money, but more importantly, prepare you for the second half of life. So how long does usually halftime last? Well, I like to stay with the governmental imposed ages of all these different goofy laws they have, and that's age 73. You see, 73, it used to be 70 and a half, then it went to 72. Now it's age 73 as we record this show in May of 2023. That's the age that Uncle Sam is going to step forward and want his fair share of those taxes you've been deferring in that 401k plan. That's the age where if you have not done any proper planning and learned to spend and enjoy this money before age 73, well, they're going to start taking the money whether you want to take it out or not. So here's the point, folks. If you don't have a game plan that deals with 59.5 to 73, that's halftime, you need to get one right now. Maybe you're already in the second half of life. Folks, it is never too late. We can work with you if you're already past age 73 to make sure that we are keeping fees down, taxes down, keeping your risk down, so that why? So you can have more money in your pocket to use and enjoy before it's too late. Okay, when we come back, I'm going to take this whole 59.5 thing. We're going to imagine that that's you at work. And if you say, yeah, Tony, I want to move that 401k over to you guys. I want a game plan. I want somebody I can meet with in person. I want somebody with your experience and not charging me all these darn fees and keeping me in the dark all the time. I'm going to show you when we return our process for taking that 401k and rolling it over to something we call the worry-free split IRA concept. I'm Tony Walker. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. And with us today via Zoom is my favorite son-in-law, fellow fiduciary, Mr. Trey Juergens. And Trey, I know we have a lot of people asking questions during halftime about the difference between Medicare Part A, Part B, and Medicare supplements. So if you would just speak to that briefly.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. The world of Medicare is very particular to unique situations, but the way that we help can be summed up into really three situations. So first scenario being turning age 65 and still working. So in that case, you have your employer coverage. So you would have Medicare Part A, which is automatic when you turn 65. But in addition to that, you have your employer plan, which is your qualifying coverage. The second scenario is retired and starting Social Security at 65. If that's the case, you will have Medicare Part A, which is no cost, Medicare Part B, which is about $165 a month and will come out of your Social Security, but then you'll actually need a Medicare supplement or a Medicare Advantage plan. The last scenario is if you're retiring but not yet starting Social Security, you'll be billed directly for your Medicare Part B premiums, and you'll need a supplement and or an Advantage plan.
Well, Trey, that's some really good information. I understand you've cut a video for folks to watch and it has a little more depth to this whole Medicare issue. How can people watch this video?
Yeah, the video is available on our YouTube channel. So if you go to youtube.com, Tony Walker Financial, it'll be on the retirement tips, as well as TonyWalkerFinancial.com, and find that on the retirement tip videos.
Hi, I'm Wes Walker, Tony's nephew and one of the fiduciaries on staff. Wanted to take a minute to talk to you about fees and the drag they can have on your retirement accounts. So just to set the stage, the typical money manager charges about 1.5% per year on the assets that they manage for you. On $500,000, that'd be about $7,500 per year. And the question you've got to ask is this fee worth the service that they're providing? That service might just be to tell you to hang in there when the market's down, and it certainly almost never comes with a written game plan that has a team of retirement specialists behind it, making sure to see you to and through retirement. It's key when you get into this phase of life that you have a monitored game plan that can be pulled up and accessed easily by your advisor so that they can make changes or adapt it to your situation. If you'd like a free audit of your current employer-sponsored plan or IRA and want to see what the fees are like, what you're getting charged versus the service you're getting, please feel free to contact our office at 877-499-9255 or send us an email. You can email me, Wes, at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Thanks and have a good day.
Our Live Well, Die Broke moment comes to us from this couple from Lexington, Kentucky, Phil and Darlene, who wrote us from Aruba with these comments about mailbox money. We got our first mailbox money deposit. Thank you for all your help. We are enjoying retirement in Aruba this week. And this is a wonderful thing. And people might say, well, Tony, where does this whole live well, die broke philosophy come from? Well, it comes from the hundreds and hundreds of savers that I've met over the years who I've witnessed waiting too long to enjoy their money. In other words, time caught up to them at a time when it was too late to go back in time. The result? Regrets of holding on to the money for way too long and never really getting to enjoy the fruits of their labor. You know, that's why you save for the future, don't you? You save so that one day you can spend it. So how can you start enjoying halftime and be more prepared for the second half of retirement? Well, it's a little known secret that is offered by your 401k plan. And of course, the custodians handling the 401k are not going to tell you about because they don't want the money leaving their hands. It's called the magical age of 59 and a half. So what I thought I would do, if that's you right now, if you're 59 and a half or older, listen, and you're still working for your current employer, is there a way to move over, roll over that 401k to someone like us who can professionally manage it and still contribute to the 401k? Yes, there is. So let me go over to the whiteboard and kind of show you how this works. So in this example, again, it can be someone over the age of 59 and a half, but we literally see this happen a lot. Soon as somebody turns 59 and a half, this is a government rule, and generally it's in the plan document that governs your 401k plan. People will call us and they'll say, hey, Tony, I heard you talk about this, or maybe I met with you 3 or 4 years ago. I'm now 59 and a half. You said to come back and see you. I'm 59 and a half. Can we go ahead and roll over this 401k plan? Well, the first thing we do, and our own Lisa Potter in our Bowling Green office is in charge of this, does a wonderful job. The first step is called an eligibility, there we go, call, went blank there. An eligibility call. So during this eligibility call, Lisa Potter will contact your custodian, let's say it's Mutual Nairobi, and they'll get you on the line with the custodian because the custodian obviously is not going to share information with us without you being on the line with your permission. So during that eligibility call, what we're trying to determine the amount that can be rolled over. Now I say can because sometimes, depending on the plan document, believe it or not, they won't let you roll it over. This happens sometimes, but sometimes when they oftentimes when they say, oh yeah, it can be rolled over, then you have to determine again how much. Again, some plan documents, depending on what the employer contributed, whether it's a profit sharing, whether it's a match, there's a lot of different nuances to this. Sometimes they might say, let's say it's a $500,000 401k. They might say, well, you're actually eligible, again, this is just an example, to roll over $400,000. So your first question ought to be, oh, okay, that's cool, but are there going to be taxes if I take it from that thing over to you guys, Tony Walker, and let you all manage it? That's the beauty. If it's done properly, the law allows us to roll over once per year of 401k in to an individual retirement account, which is what we would manage. Let's put this up full screen, Aaron. We call this the split IRA concept. Now, here's how this works. The money first would go to Charles Schwab, okay? So in most cases, sometimes we'll go directly to an annuity company, but in most cases, that full $400,000 in this example that they're eligible to roll over will go without taxes and go to Charles Schwab, and it's set up in an IRA. In fact, it'll say Charles Schwab IRA, FBO means for the benefit of, let's say John Doe IRA. So there's no taxes, there's no fees, there's no upfront costs. What we will do with Schwab then is go back to our split IRA and determine with your approval if and how much you want to split off or transfer. Again, no cost to do this, no taxes to do this, but to transfer some of that money into what we call a fixed annuity. And if you want to, we could even select an annuity that provides some of that beloved mailbox money. So then what happens? We say, well, Tony, then what do we do? Well, at the next step then, we begin to monitor your progress. And this is where a lot of advisors fall off the table, because once they get your money, what I found is a lot of them don't do much to continue to earn your trust, especially if you've taken all your money and made the mistake of just putting 100% of it in an annuity. You all will come to me in many cases after purchasing an annuity, and you'll say, well, Tony, I bought this annuity 4 or 5. I had one yesterday, bought this annuity 10 years ago, never heard from the advisor after we bought the annuity. Why is that? Well, I have to remind you that that advisor made a huge commission on the annuity. The annuities don't pay any fees or recurring fees to the advisor, so more than likely, unless the person wanted to just make sure to stay in touch with you, there was no incentive for them to stay in touch, and thus you're left alone to go it alone with this annuity that you probably don't even understand. So if you're 59 and a half or older, still working with your current employer, you wish to continue to contribute to your 401k, maybe because you get a match, but you like the idea of having some or all of this 401k professionally managed, even if you're not retired, by someone that can provide a written game plan, why don't you do this right now? Why don't you log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. When you get there, you're going to click on that Let's Get Started button. We can arrange a free 10-minute fiduciary phone call, or if it warrants, I'll be happy to meet with you in person. That's right, the owner of the company, at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices, or just simply call the number on your screen. Well, what does the Bible have to say about time and this issue of remembering the days of our youth and growing older and the fear of what might happen in the future? I've got some wonderful news to share with you on that point, but it's time to get me another cup of coffee. I'll be right back.
Tony, I've been in this situation where I left an employer and I had a 401k kind of hanging out there. And then other people who retire and they don't really know what to do with their 401k. What is the benefit of rolling that money over to Tony Walker Financial?
That's a good question. First of all, a 401k is a savings plan, but it's not a plan. It's not really anything that's managed. You have to pick your own investments. And what I've found, Diane, is when people leave an employer, even if they're 40 or 45 years of age, it's always advantageous to put that with an independent financial advisor. Number one, we can get certain products that usually the 401k does not offer. The second advantage of that is now we can devise a plan. You have a local retirement firm that's actually watching over it. You're not dialing a 1-800 number or getting online and looking at something that looks like a financial sushi menu. So this allows us to manage the money, properly position it, and also as someone gets a little older, we had a person in the office today, now they're getting ready to retire. And it's interesting, we moved that money over from former 401k 10 years ago. We already kind of have the plan, and they are so comfortable retiring and now moving the balance of their new 401k over to us.
That's interesting. What if I'm still working for an employer? Can I move that 401k to you, or do I have to quit?
Yeah, that's really a good point. So if someone is over the age of 59 and a half, this is a government age, I don't know where they came up with this, but basically, and let's say you're still working, but you say, Tony, I want my 401k with you. I want a plan around this, but I still want to contribute to my 401k. Can I do that? Surprisingly, usually you can. So let's take an example. Someone's 60 years of age, they're still working, they're funding a 401k. They could roll over their current 401k to us, no charge, no taxes, we'll manage it, and then still contribute to their 401k. So it's a win-win for everyone.
For additional information and scheduling your free, no obligation appointment, go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Earlier in the show, I shared the timeline we use at Tony Walker Financial to help our clients enjoy a worry-free retirement. Timelines are an excellent way to help us see where we've been, where we are right now, and the urgency of taking action for tomorrow. Without a timeline, it's easy to forget what time is. Well, slipping away, and as the old saying goes, time's a-wastin'. Time is God's gift to man as a reminder of how quickly time goes by and His way of encouraging us to make the most of the limited time we have here on earth. For me, today at the ripe young age of 63, it's hard to believe that some 55 years ago, me and my neighborhood friends were riding bikes up and down the streets of Lexington without having to worry about our faces ending up on the back of a milk carton. They were good times indeed, but time moved on, so some 15 years later or so, all of a sudden I'm getting married to my high school sweetheart Susan. Speed along another 40 years or so, and I'm sitting gleefully with my new children's book, inspired by my two grandchildren, Scout and Ivy, and just at the time of this photo, I'm blessed with another grandchild, Jack, and guess what? A fourth soon on the way. Yes, indeed, time flies, which is why we have spent so much time today reminding you of it and the urgency we must place on planning for our future before the second half begins and, of course, life ends. You know, the God of the Bible allows His Word to remind us of the fleeting of time. Yet, as potentially depressing as growing old might be, This God, in His grace and mercy, can do things in our later years that no human can do. In fact, check it out in Genesis 17:17, where God decides to bless an over-the-hill couple with a child. The reaction to this news? Abraham falls face down and laughing, saying, "Can a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? And can Sarah give birth at the age of 90? Well, when God is in control, the answer is yes. You see, God is not under a timeline, nor does He exist in a certain time. That's because He was there in the beginning, and He'll be there for all eternity. A concept of time, or lack thereof, of what humans were never meant to understand. Yet knowing that we would be anxious about the passing of time and the loss of our youth, He in turn gives us hope of an eternal future that surpasses all time. As the Apostle Paul reminds us in Philippians 4:6, no matter our age, we are not to be anxious, but rather to be thankful at all times. So, assuming you are one of those folks who is fearful and anxious about the future of this old world, might I suggest you grab your Bible and be reminded that the God of the universe has already got this time thing figured out. And that, my friend, is some good news you and I can take to the bank. Amen? Well, assuming you are at halftime or maybe already in the second half of this thing we call retirement, here's my suggestion. Assuming you don't have a written game plan from a trained retirement planning specialist, get one. And best of all, our written game plans are free for the asking and for those who qualify. So, to see if our process might be right for you, we've made this whole thing really easy and only takes time of about 10 minutes on your part. In fact, we call this free service the 10-minute fiduciary phone call, and here's how this works. All you got to do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, and you can either click on that little button that says 10-minute fiduciary phone call, schedule your time with Tony. We get on the phone and talk, and if it warrants, myself or one of our highly trained salaried fiduciaries will be happy to meet with you to provide your free written game plan at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. So log on right now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, where you can just click that Let's Get Started, or if you like, 24/7, you can call the number on your screen. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program. Next week, I'm actually going to go from halftime to the second half of life and show you how you can be worry-free in the second half as well. But between now and then, you remember, if all else fails, you be worry-free and make it a good one.